Shipa tuche tempe trinle yarnoda belge drolor zambe ze parche pande lame shabla solvade Oma Guru Vajrad Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradara Sumati Munishas Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradara Sumati Munish Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra
Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi
Pakyuke Kudandage Lo Pakyuke Sundandage Nga Pakyuke Tudandage Ye Tön yerme çıktı çingelo makyuke kudan da gelu makyuke sundan da makyuke tuğdan da geyi tön yerme çıktı çingelo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Hamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni 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 Shakyamuni Soha Sashipeki Choshimeto Tramare Rablingshi Nidegempadi Sange Shintu Mikte Ulvarki Drokunam Dashinglam Chopar Idam Guru Ratna Mindral Kam Niryatayami Sange Chedan Tsogi Chonam La Chanchu Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sange
Good evening. I was remembering once that I was with a friend as I was studying in India. In this monastic university that is called Serame. And there was another young guy that was studying with me, and we were doing every day, like one day yes, one day no, like 3 days a week, twice the debate a day, and then the other days there would be only once a day the debate. Then one day a week was like the most sacred day, and it was the free day, it was the Tuesday. And one day we were there debating in the morning, and it was a guy, it was nice and everything, but he didn't really have a strong will to study. It was a bit there, just sluggish, and the debate worked that each one of us chose his own master, and you will go and study a subject for on that master, and you didn't have like a fixed number of masters. You can have like as many as you wanted. And in my class, okay, we were like 70 students, and there were at least 5 or 6 masters on the same subject. So each one will go to the lesson of that master, and then we will meet twice a day or once a day to go and debate. So on the subject that you were studying in that period, you would have dialectic discussions, and there was a moment where you would do it one on one, and then where two would answer and one would ask the questions in front of the class. And this guy, this friend of mine, he was often there saying, "No, okay, uh, let's. I cannot debate. I don't have any doubts." And he would say it in a way that, okay, he was also lazy to just debate. But the interesting thing is that not having interest in the subject, I don't even like ask. I don't even have any doubts. I don't have any interest to know more or to comprehend because I don't have any interest. And so a bit joking, was saying that it's pointless, okay, to ask questions because I don't have anything to ask. And then many years later, I met him in Nepal, and he became like a football player, which is fine, nothing against the football players, but it shows that was not his path mostly. But aside from this, okay, we were eating in a restaurant in Kathmandu many years after that, and he came to say hi with his family, and so he told me that. But the point is that one of the most important starting points is not the answer, but having the question. To ask oneself the question. When we ask ourselves a question in a sincere way, which is not uncertainty. Uncertainty is it like this or not? Should I go or not go? Do or not do? This is the uncertainty. And the uncertainty is strongly connected with anxiety. The uncertainty is connected with seeing some ghosts that are not there. I mean, in the sense of creating some threats that, okay, well, what if tomorrow happens this or that? If it goes like this or that? This is something that it's not good. But another thing is to see, okay, understanding that I don't understand this, wanted to comprehend things better, a bit better, and having this curiosity in life, not taking things for granted, to really ask oneself some questions. And to do this, we need some profundity in the reflection, because we need some effort to see something. and to not remain on the surface. To do that, you need some effort to go deeper. It's a bit like reading some difficult texts. When one reads a difficult text, to really understand that text, you need a certain amount of effort, of reflection, of putting the parts together. Then when you put the parts together like a puzzle, it's beautiful. I believe that some of you have read the Divine Comedy. I know that many don't have good memories of school from that, but when I read it, I really liked it. But mostly it was like, okay, well written text. Then it's not like I was passionate about the Divine Comedy. At the time, I heard the, I listened to the commentary given by Roberto Benigni, which was very beautiful. It was a time where I would go from Milan to Albagnano, and I was driving, and I would come back home very late at night, and so I downloaded the various videos of him explaining the Divine Comedy, and so I was listening to them as I was coming back home from Milan. And anyway, the beauty of having a text that the first time you read it, you have a hard time, and then you read it again, someone explains you something, and then it's like as if those words unveil a whole word that is behind them. And it's very beautiful, but it's difficult. And it demands a space, a calmness of being able to revisit and look back and not just take what is obvious and on the surface. And this is not just about complex texts, but about life in general, both on what happens, also on what happens about us when we have certain emotional, physical, or mental things. Then we look for the most easy and obvious answer. Because also to go there and to check, okay, I'm feeling this, but when were the other times where I felt something similar? What could the reason be? And to try to link things and to listen to our intuition is not obvious. You need silence, first of all. You need that time and space. And here, to ask oneself these questions and to go deeper is for me one of the things that we really need. To put energy in something, as we have already said many times, first of all, we need to want that thing. The desire is one of the most important things at the end. And is where I put my energy. Here we kind of need to go towards ourselves in our weaknesses, because we have some dynamics that also start from the physical aspect and consequently also mental, that are very strong, and we have a hard time to not be kind of dragged by these dynamics. And among this, there is a law that is quite important for the human being, that is that when it's used in the right way, it's very good for us, and when it's not, then it's harmful, which is the law of the minimum effort. The law of the minimum effort is important, right? Because, okay, we start from the basis, from the fact that our body and our mind, our being, has a certain limited quantity of energy, which is, so it's not unlimited. The resources of the planet that we have around us are also limited. And so, starting from our own energy and our body, we have a limited amount of energy. And so, we, as a starting point, which is not something that we should reason on, if we have the possibility of doing more or less the same thing with 10 or of energy or 5, what will we choose? 5. Because our energy is limited and we need to use it well in order to survive, to be well. So this is important. For example, if our body believes that we are in front of a threat, that there is a danger, what are the possible reactions in front of a threat? Either I fight or I flight or I freeze, which is the other possibility, but mostly either I fight or I run away. In both cases, our body, what is needed the most, like in our body, like the legs and arms or the hair and the reproductive organs. And no, you need like strong and legs and arms. So, for example, when we are in front of a threat, our system sends energy to the legs and to the arms, and from somewhere that energy must come, because it's not like we have the capacity of creating energy. We just have the capacity of redirecting it. It comes from food, from oxygen, comes from different things, and then we direct it. In a threat situation, what is the most important thing? The legs, not the hair. So one that is under constant threat, whether it's real or not, but that lives in a chronic stress situation, can lose hair or has difficulty in reproduction. Because if you're under threat, the priority is not having children. It's not also to have hair. Is to save yourself, to run, to fight. So our system automatically manages our energy, and one of the rules that our system has in doing this is where I can use less energy than I save it. This somehow, somewhere shows us this tendency that we have, which is the law of minimal effort. So if I can do the same thing, walking 1 meter or 100 meters, what will I choose? I would choose like the closest one of 1 meter. Let's say that we have an excuse, that somewhere there is this our deeper aspect of wanting to manage our energy. The problem is that when I do the 1 meter, I choose the 1 meter thing, but then I use the energy anyway in a stupid way. It's not like I use it for the things that are really important. So where I want to get is that we in general try to avoid putting effort. That is seen as something that should be avoided. We see fatigue as sort of suffering, as something that we don't generally like. This changes when we give a lot of importance and value to what we're doing. So, and here is really when we have a desire for something, a passion for something, we are willing to put effort for that, because that is important. So it comes to my mind that recently I saw in the news of a kid in Australia, and it happened that he went out with a mother and a sister and a brother, and they went at the sea with a sort of kayak rowing, and at a certain point there was very strong wind, and the current brought them many kilometers away from the shore. And so what did he do? He went to ask for help, so he started swimming by himself, and he swam for about 4 kilometers in the sea with the wind against, and he was 12 years old. And so half of this he was swimming with the jacket but then at a certain point he took it away. But the point is that he did like something very, very difficult, and when he managed to get there and he managed to call for help, they were able to save. They were like 18 kilometers away from the shore, his mother and his brother and sister, and he saved them their lives. And in the news, and there was a man saying, "Yeah, this is a real Superman, like what this boy did. How did he manage to do that? Was he maybe like a 12 years old, like super powerful kid? No, because he had a very strong will, and nothing would take him away from that. He wanted to save the life of his mother and of his brother and his sister. Then we can say the fact that in the teenagehood, the part of the brain that sees dangers is not yet very developed. That was also helping, because then if one starts like questioning, no, I will not be able to do that, he's too far away and blah blah, then you will never do it. But the point is that he left, he went for it, and he managed to swim for more than 2 hours. He did like something really crazy with the current against, and he managed to save his family. But this was possible, first of all, because he wanted to do that. He had an important goal in front of him, which was the priority in front of anything else. It didn't matter whether they would hurt his legs or arms or if he was cold, because he had in front of him something that was really worth it. So, in general, we are willing to put effort when in front of us we have something, a greater goal. We fell in love. We really want something. I remember, okay, like there's some things that are never really understood, but this is another thing. For example, I remember when there were some products, like maybe at the beginning of the iPhone, where you were like people like queuing out of the shops, and I was looking at that. Why don't you just wait a few days? And in a Buddhist text, this is called the stupid effort, which means to put a lot of energy for something that doesn't have a particular valuable give back. Actually, the correct term is like uh, the wrong effort. So in general, we are driven by this law that drives most of our lives, which is the law of the minimum of effort and maximum comfort. The more something is comfortable, the more value we give to that, the more we give importance to that. The more something is difficult, the more we try to avoid it. So can we recognize ourselves in this? But we can see this in many different aspects of life. Also, for example, the development of technology, the direction that we give to these things. We want to put less and less effort, so we replace things that are done by men with machines. So one doesn't, for example, as to go up the stairs, and then we go to the gym, and we have fake legs that one has to climb. I was walking, and I saw this gym with the glass where you see people. It looks like an aquarium. I don't understand people doing that. And I saw like this girl that was climbing up the stairs, and she had the phone in her hands, going up the stairs. I was trying to say like, what a strange world we live in. And so at the end, we have to go to the gym to move, where the most basic things of life, we have them done by something else, someone else or something else, like an elevator or the washing machine or this and that. We constantly look for new tools, new means to put less effort, sometimes with really crazy inventions. What happens is that with this law of minimum effort and maximum comfort, we placed ourselves in a spot of particular fragility. I see people that have spent particularly difficult moments in their lives. For example, the generation of my grandparents, they went through war. My grandparents, from the side of my father, they flew during the war when they were very young, and they had to rebuild their lives from scratch. My grandpa twice, he did that twice, and so once that they came in a bagnanos with the sister of my grandpa, her brother was one of the disciples of Einstein. They were both physics, and she was 85 years old, and we were talking about quantum physics. My grandparents, they would spend hours talking about any subject, and when they wouldn't agree, my grandparent would ask Google, my grandma would ask the sister, and so this is what they would do in the afternoons. And anyway, that time the three of them came, and they were coming to Albagnano, and they were going up the road. In Albagnano there is a road. Anyway, there was some s- someone having sorry, there were some network issues. So there was like a person that was going up this road, and there was like some problem going up, and they this person and other people that were with them took the situation as something like particularly difficult, but my grandparents were just like nothing really happened. And once I went to my grandpa in Brazil, and I asked him to how did it feel, and we were eating together. And 1 month before that, or 2 months, some thieves went into their house in a quite bad way, without getting into the details. And he put like the anti-theft system, but anyway, they managed to cut the telephone wires, and he came like the day after that as like as if he was from the telephone company, and then he took out the gun as he was inside the house. And I knew that the grandma had a difficult time to sleep because they didn't feel safe anymore. And then my grandpa said, "Hey, like but to change the house when you're 90 years old," it was 92 and something like that. And I knew that there was this whole situation happening. And I go to them, and I ask my grandpa, "How are you?" And he said, "I'm fine." And these problems that have been there, like the theft in the house, the thieves, and this and that, yes, we're facing them. Anyway, like to complain is a habit. And I can make countless examples. And I'm sure that you, when you think about your grandparents, many, many of them were made like of a different matter. There was like a certain resilience, strength that now, okay, if we put like the 10 of us, then we can't match it. I don't know if you share this. One of the reasons, according to me, is that when one has to face some difficulties and manages to overcome them, gains some self-esteem. It's like when I see some children that play, and the kid tries to climb a tree and maybe falls, and someone doesn't allow that and goes to help him. No, no, don't do that. Don't hurt yourself. Just let him fall. What do you think will happen? When one, since he was a kid, tries something and puts some effort in that and manages to overcome some difficulties, that increases self-esteem. If every time that I'm trying to climb the tree, then if there is always someone trying to help me, then next time I will not do that if there isn't that person. So the resilience is a quality that is gained in life. It's not like you just have it like that. The capacity of falling and getting back up, the trust, the confidence that we have in ourselves, is something that you gain in life. It's not, you don't get it from one day to the other. And I realized that those that lived quite difficult moments, very often they don't have, they're not afraid of putting effort. The more we have an easy life on many sides, the more that effort seems absurd. Why would I do that? I'm not gonna do that thing. And this gradually takes us to a place where often we lack the courage to face something because, one, we lack the desire. If I don't really want something, I don't even have to face the difficulties that are there because it's not a matter of not having courage, it's a matter of not wanting that thing. Like, for example, maybe I have to jump a large hole to get to the other side. It's not that I don't have courage to jump. I don't want to jump. I don't even have the problem of jumping or not jumping and tell myself, no, this is I don't even think about it. It's too difficult. It's too much effort. So there is a place where if we don't desire something, then we will not even ask ourselves the question whether I will do it or not, if I can have the resources to realize that or not. One of the things that happen is that when we let ourselves somehow to be dragged, more than dragged, I don't even know the right term, to be consumed, to be kind of overwhelmed by this way of living where the goal of life is to enjoy oneself. What I need is to avoid the things that I don't like, to enjoy the pleasant things, to entertain myself, and life passes. Sometimes I have the feeling that often it's like living life as if it was like a theme park. You go from one toy to the other, and then in the middle there are those long queues. I don't know. In Italy you have Gardaland. When I was a kid, I went into Disney World with my grandparents, and then I had like I did that twice because I had like the grandparents from my father and mother, so I did the same trip with both sides of my family. And my grandma was a person with sane principles, and so she didn't accept the proposal of her nephews to put themselves on a wheelchair to skip the queue. She didn't accept that. But what happens is that we go from one play to the other, and then in the middle there is the anxiety. Okay, what should I do now? What is the okay? Carousel ends, and then you have the anxiety. Okay, what carousel do I get into now? But we have to go together. I want to do this, and you want to do that. How do we do it? Here there is more queue, and there is less. And life is like this. We go from one attraction to the other, and in the middle of you have the queues, the price to pay, and but we end up going from one attraction to the other. And we should try to not leave it like that. And in the attractions, you have many nice things, many pleasant things, nothing against that. But the point is, how do I feel? Because there are some things that we need. It's not a matter whether they are things that we like or not. There are some real needs that we have. But these needs, if we don't put some energy there, then we will not be able to satisfy them. We have some physical needs. To take care of the body is not so obvious. Me now being 45, one of the things that I realized is that, okay, they gave me this body and they forgot to give me the manual to use it. I'm learning bit by bit. I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. Every time there is like something else. Now I was in Brazil, I did the exams, and I found out something else, which is defect from the factory. I'm fine, but in order to be well in the future, I need to take some things and to avoid other things. And guess what? They are about food. And so it's as if bit by bit they give you one page more of the manual, and you understand better how to use this body. And is it easy? No. What is one of the most difficult things? To go against our habits. One that is used to eating a lot of sugar and shouldn't eat sugars anymore. What is the main difficulty? To go against the habits. But is a need of the body to be healthy. And so to eat in a certain way, to sleep in a certain way, and so on. To move. We have some emotional needs. We are not solitary animals, we are herd animals. We need one the other, we need to love and to be loved, to give trust and receive trust, to relate one another. But are human relationships easy? Never. Because when I relate with you, actually this demands, requires from me, from my side, to put some effort, that is the effort of going out of oneself. Because in an healthy relationship, it is required that I go out of my position, that is self-referential, and I acknowledge that another being exists. Because our tendency, when we're in front of the other, is to see what the other is in function of ourselves, not to see the need of the other. So we try to see the other, we interpret the other and judge the other on very often on a self-referential basis, according to what we think, according to what I think you need, and it's not really going out of the eye and seeing the other. And to do this, we need to put effort. One of the reasons for which this is difficult is always a matter of habit. Also even this is a matter of habit. It's a matter of habit because we are used to seeing the other or to be self-referential. Have you ever seen, like, when you're talking with someone and someone is telling like a story that is living in the first person and the other person is listening, has to talk about something similar that he lived. Why don't you just listen? I also tell this to myself because I see naturally that I feel like telling something which is not for empathy, but it's because me, somehow I need to relate what I'm seeing with something of my experience to give some sense to that. We are very self-referential, and in relating with the other, getting out of the self-referentiality and to understand that there is like the other and to see the needs of the other, the vision of the other is difficult because we need to get out of our comfort zone of what we are used to. But this, for example, is necessary in whatever healthy relationship. So if we see like conflicts, very often they come when there is a room for dialogue. When you have like a double monologue or triple monologue or even more. And I open and close a quick parenthesis. We live in a time where dialogue, which is something so important, because it's where two or more people bring their subjective visions which interact with one the other and transform the vision of one and the other to understand and see something new. Also in our political system, one of the keys of a democracy is dialogue. A congress, the parliament, is born like a place where you have dialogue, where rightly you have different positions, different ideas, because are the different ideas that when there is openness in the listening give possibility to improvement. But when there are no dialogues and just monologues, then it doesn't work anymore. And this is a perception that I have, which is not only here but more or less everywhere where I see, where I look. The times that I was listening to some conversations in the parliament, in the congress, in Brazil or Italy or Spain, or everything that I heard, the feeling that I have is that there is no real listening. The decision has already been taken in another context, and you just go there to talk. It's not like, okay, you say that, and so I change something of my vision and my position. But this is not a problem that is just about politics. This is also in our life. And we close the parenthesis. So the dialogue is something fundamental in all relationships in order to have a healthy relationship. But dialogue demands effort to get out of our habit of being self-referential, self-centered, and to listen the other, to see the other, to acknowledge the existence of the other. You're also there, and so you have a vision, you have a perception, you have your own subjectivity, and I must respect that and to acknowledge that. And also there is some effort and there's a need that we have, and we also have a need of security, and of course we need to have a minimum of economical stability to take care of our health and so on. We have spiritual needs. We need to find a meaning in our life, to face our own inner wounds. And it's interesting because even when one doesn't even know of having an inner wound and doesn't want to face that, our system will continue to make it come to the surface so that we can face it sooner or later. Is this clear? And so there are some things, there are some needs that we have, and in order to face these needs, this requires effort to face our bad habits and so on. Is it easy? It's difficult. And here there is an aspect. The first time I read about this was on a text from Atisha. Now I don't remember if it was like first like the text of Trija Rinpoche or Atisha, but anyway, in the text from Atisha, he was having a conversation with Chon Trongpa. Atisha lived in Tibet in the 15th century. He brought the Buddhism in Tibet, but not the first time, but our lineage. Our lineage goes through him. And there was this book that was called the Book of Kadam, of conversation with his main disciple. But anyway, one day there was a conversation between them, and in this moment, Atisha says to Trompa, "Oh, my son, don't be afraid to suffer." And he says, "But master, if if I'm not afraid to suffer, I will suffer more, because by not having fear of suffering, then I will not try to avoid suffering, to prevent suffering. No, a teacher replies, no, you suffer much more for the fear of suffering than for the suffering itself. So don't be afraid to suffer. And also Trungpa Rinpoche, in a text that is the commentary on the part of the Lojong, the mental training, was also talking about this, that the more we are afraid of suffering, then eventually we will suffer, the more we will suffer. It's like a person that, for example, had like a day with a particular claustrophobic feeling and panic, and then after a while it becomes like the fear of that panic attack, and then it becomes like a vicious cycle where eventually that thing is not there, but the fear that it happens then recalls even more that state of anxiety. And so what happens is that we spend a lot of our time where, rather than facing what is there in life in that moment, we are there sitting imagining the future. And in this imagining the future, we try to avoid suffering. But have we ever managed to do that? So me, at least, I've made a choice that I want to suffer. I don't want to suffer again or pre-suffer. So I'm not re-suffering the past and also not pre-suffering the future. What is there to be faced in the present moment, we face it. And I assure you that there is much less suffering when you manage to do that. So what happens is that in order to feel a little bit better, it's important to not be afraid of suffer. It's like also said in the Bodhisattva Chairavata of this example of like a warrior. It's really used, this term, the warrior, that when he goes to a fight, he goes there with his own nice light cotton cloth, or does he put the armor on? He puts on the armor. Why does he do that, other than feeling maybe beautiful with the armor? Because he knows that he will get some hits. And so if the warrior, when he has to live, he just sits there and is afraid of getting hit, then he will never live. But he already knows that, and he puts on the armor. But the warrior is not afraid of being hit. Is not afraid of the effort that there is in that battle, because he leaves prepared to face that. So what happens when we are in front of situations where there is some effort? The more we are afraid of feeling bad, of putting effort and so on, the more eventually we will not be able to really get into what is necessary to really face that, other than when the circumstances force us into that. So one of the steps that I believe are important is to not be afraid of effort. The important thing is not whether it's difficult or requires effort or not, but it's whether it's good for me or not. That thing, is it difficult? Yes. Okay, but will it be good for me? Yes, also. So then, welcome. And here there is the concept of having courage. Because courage is an important place where I have a goal, there is something that I believe is important for me. I know that from where I find myself now until up to that place, there are in the middle some things that are not easy. I need to jump, to face something that for me is not easy. But the goal is stronger than the difficulty. And at the same time, I have trust that I can do it. Maybe I have some doubts, yes, but I believe that I can do it. Really, because the goal is more important. The Australian kid that was swimming, can you imagine, he was like 4 kilometers from the shore. I don't even know if he could see the place where he was supposed to get to. The sea was very agitated, but he had a very clear goal to save his mother and his brother and sister. And so he told to himself, I can do it, and he left and did it. And so this confidence in our ability of facing something, summed to the desire and to the acknowledgement of the importance of the thing that we want, this is what becomes our courage. And by looking around myself, I believe that sometimes the lack of courage sometimes is because of lack of confidence in ourselves, but mostly also for a lack of goals and desire. It's like, okay, yes, it would be nicer on the other shore, but you need to climb, you need to jump this hole. It's difficult, it requires effort. I'm not doing so bad here, so I just stay here. It's like, okay, I recognize that I'm in prison. Yes, it would be nice to get out, but I'm also not doing so bad here. It's well, like when we have situations in life that we see that are not right, we can definitely see them, but then at the end you have TV series, you have pizza. When you're feeling lonely, you talk with artificial intelligence. So sorry for the sarcasm, but what I wanted to say is, okay, we find a comfort zone, and then it's difficult to face some difficulties for something when we don't want to get out of our comfort zone where we find ourselves. So it's like, hey, why would I need to desire something else when I'm doing fine where I am, which is actually not really doing fine. And so I really believe that it's very, very important for us, first of all, as I've already said in other situations, to allow ourselves to dream and to imagine how beautiful it would be to be in harmony with the others. I'm not talking about going far, but just to be in harmony at home, at work, to be able to not have any rancor, to be able to get at the end of the day, and also metaphorically speaking, at the end of one's own life, without regrets, without fear of death. How beautiful would it be to live a life that one believes to be meaningful? To be free from the weights of anger, of sadness, would it be beautiful or not? And it's possible. Is it easy? Absolutely not. Can you imagine, okay, if it's just difficult to follow a diet, and the main difficult to follow a diet is just to change the habit. It's just that. In my case, in this moment, the difficulty is to find what I can eat, which is something else, because there are like the whole of everything. The the meeting that I had the other day with the doctor was talking. Okay, uh, please just tell me what should I eat. I went beyond like I like and I don't like. Okay, what I have to eat, I eat it. I don't care so much. But here we get into something that is really the fact of really being able to not have fear of fatigue in doing something that is really good for us, and this means to have courage. And here I link myself to a sentence that I heard once when we finished a summer camp in Albagnano. There was this moment there with the parents, and I was just there in the middle, but it was mostly for the parents, where they gathered all all the children, and the children were hidden. You wouldn't see them, and you had like a place to sit for every adult. And the children themselves, the kids themselves, invented this thing. And so at a certain point, these two kids come, a male and female, around 9 or 10 years old. Anyway, they look at us, and one of them says, the female says, "You need courage to love." Just this sentence, nothing else. Then they come, they give us some bandage, like with cut us. We put them on the ice. Then we listen to some music, and you listen also the children going out, and they start dancing and singing. And one kid after the others comes whispering in your ears, "I have had courage when," and then they will tell some stories when or moments when they had courage, very intimate things. And at the end, two children will come to every adult, and they will hug you, and they will ask you, when did you need to have courage? And I remember that okay, most of people were crying after this, and there was this moment that when someone asks you, when when did you need to have courage, you cannot lie, and it's not a trivial question. When was the last time that you had courage? Because when we remain in the loop of the daily life, in a comfort zone, we don't even allow ourselves to get in touch with our courage, because we don't even have the necessity, the need. And you need courage to love. It's not a joke. And then this ended, and they made like a tunnel with all the kids, and the adults had to go in the middle, and the kids were caressing all the adults, and they were all there crying, and the adults, of course. But that sentence, yeah, really made me reflect. You need courage to love, starting from the courage of loving ourselves. Why do we need courage to love oneself? Because it's difficult. Because it's not easy to go against our habits. And in the process of loving ourselves, the first two challenges that we find in our spiritual path, I call them challenges because they're not easy, and you need courage. The first one is to abandon what is harmful, also when we like it. And this is about what we eat, about the things that we do, the way that we talk, the way that we think. It's not easy, because to avoid something that I like, even if it's harmful, it's difficult. And here you need courage. The courage is a place where I look towards that habit with a sort of pride or self-esteem more than that. And I tell myself, I'm stronger than you. I can do it. And even when there is like the difficulty, no, I can do it. And so when I feel like it, even if I want to do it, then I will not do it. And remembering also what I've already talked about in many other occasions, that we are attracted to what is harmful to us because we are unbalanced. It's like, okay, when you have something that is balanced, as it's balanced, the force of gravity pushes towards balance. But as you go towards unbalance, the force pushes towards unbalance. We make a trivial example. There is harmony between two people. We are in balance. We are doing fine. One of the two, something snaps, something happens in work, there's some whatever reason, and then ends up being a little bit aggressive with the other. Can it happen? Yes. You're aggressive with me. Me, how do I react? The balance, the imbalance has gone to one side, and so I pull on the same side. We have this strange thing. Okay, you have been aggressive with me, and that's wrong to be aggressive with the other, especially when we are close to each other and we love each other. And so you've been aggressive towards me, and so then you shouldn't do that. But because you have been aggressive with me, then I allow myself self to be aggressive with you. Even even if we don't say, that's what we do. And so at the point, what was a little bit unbalanced just becomes completely unbalanced. Sometimes just falls down and rolls away, and we have to take it back. Sometimes, like for a moment of conflict, you need like months to put it back in balance. There are times where you can't even do that at all. And so, when something goes out of the balance, our tendency is to follow that unbalance, and that also happens with body. When we are sick, when our body is out of balance, we are attracted towards what increases that unbalance. And the same happens in relationships, in the emotional aspect, and in the physical aspect. And so here we need the first force, which is to go against the current. It comes natural to react in a certain way, but I allow myself, and also here you need strength and courage. I will not react. I will I will act in a way that is aware. I will breathe 3, 5, 10 times. I will take the mala to breathe in and breathe out 100 times, whatever it is. But I will not get into that unhealthy dynamic. I can do it. But courage, when does it need to be generated? In the moment of the threat or before that? The warrior, when does he get the courage? When he has already get into the battle or before that? Before that. And also here it's like when we are in a safe place where we're doing fine, that we put on the armor, the inner armor, to tell ourselves, okay, today I will have to face the object of anger. I will not react in that way. Look, that there is my jealousy and I can do it. I will not let myself be taken away by jealousy. And you need an act of courage. And then the Tibetan term of pamo is used. In some texts is used this term, which refers to the spiritual practitioner, which means the hero and heroine, which means that who has courage. Courage not in the sense of having to fight, we use the analogy of the warrior, but actually is in the sense of being able to welcome, being able to face what is not easy with love. Because when I avoid something that is harmful, it's not a sacrifice, it's an act of love towards myself. When Okay, the first challenge is to avoid what is harmful even if I like it. The second challenge, that also requires courage, is to cultivate what is good even when I don't like it. And it's very, very difficult. I talk for myself also. And what you need to do is, okay, to start, in both cases, not just doing everything all together, and no one will be able to abandon everything from one day to the other or cultivate everything from one day to the other. You start with one piece, and the more you're able to get one piece done, then the more you can also do the next one. Okay, I managed to do this, I can do also this other thing, and so we gain some confidence to do that. But if we want to feel well, and I believe that we do, at least I think this is the basis for all of us. The first fundamental thing that we have already talked about, already in many other contexts, is to stop victimizing ourselves. As long as I leave myself as the victim of the war, yes, I know that I shouldn't get angry, but have you seen what has happened? But you see, like it's like this and that. I know I shouldn't react like this, but if you had met my parents, the childhood that I had, I don't want to minimize the suffering of anyone, the traumas of anyone. We have never seen a perfect family ever. It's like when some parents come to me with some young children, they tell me, Lama, help me. I really don't want uh, to traumatize my children in any way. You don't have any choice. You are not able to do that. The only alternative that is possible is whether both you and your child are Buddhas. At that point, you can. Otherwise, you tell me like a relationship that is so close, so constant, so deep, where the the the, the stupid things of one don't interact with the ones of the other. The fears of the anxiety, the various things that the projections, so something eventually happens. And of course, it's very right to not want to traumatize your children and to have like a special awareness and attention and to not be self-centered and to see their needs. That's great, but I've never seen a perfect family. Ever met one. I have wonderful parents, really, I really do, and I see them in this way and I acknowledge them in this way and I have a lot of gratitude towards them, but perfect, then they're not. And if we see in our lives, if each one of us sits here and narrates the childhood, the problems that we had in teenagehood, will there be one that is free from problems? Not at all. One will have problems of a certain kind, another one of another kind, who more, who less, but we are all there. And so I agree that we have all had our problems, traumas, the wounds created in the past, difficult conditions, and whatever there is. But if we want to be well, it depends on us. We must start from that place. And if I'm waiting for someone to do something in order for me to be well, then you can wait as much as you want, but at the end, that will never happen. If you're not you yourself who make yourself happy, the others will make you suffer. This context, it means that if it's not me taking care of myself, who will do that? Also for another reason, because even if there is someone taking the commitment of doing that, he will not be able to do that, not because that person is incapable, but because he doesn't have the means to do that. If I want to change your deeper habits, can I do that? For as much as I try to do that. Has anyone here ever tried to change someone else? I've tried. Zero success. Frustration, fatigue, sense of impotency. Now, I don't know, now it comes an image to my mind. It's like it's as if I am very hungry and I really want to eat some food that I've seen in the shop, but I don't have any way to get in. How beautiful it would be to eat that shop, but I'm not able to get there, and I'm left hungry. But it's not because I don't want to eat, but it's because I don't have the means to get in to get to that. So no one of us has the means to get into the mind and to change the habits. Even Buddha said, I cannot take your suffering away like you take the dirt away with a broom. I cannot clean your mental defilements like as you rub the dirt from a cloth with water. I cannot take my qualities and put them inside you. The only thing that I can do is to show you what you should cultivate and what you should abandon. And then it's up to you to do that. And so there is a place here that as long as I stay in that position of victimism, where if I'm feeling bad because there was something that didn't allow me, or because like something is not right, or because it's fault of one or the other, and consequently for me in order to be well, this needs to be like this and that needs to be like that. We can spend our whole life like that. But when and I'm not saying that situations are not real. I'm not saying that there are no difficult situations and so on. But it's me that who takes care of changing my deeper habits. It's me who takes care of my health, no one else. It's me who takes care of my relationships, no one else. And how you act towards me is your choice. How I act towards you is my choice. We often don't live like this. We believe that our way of acting is a consequence of the way of acting of the other. We have the freedom of choosing how to act. And so, at the beginning, this place where I am no longer a victim, I take the reins in my hands, and also here I need courage because it's not easy. If we were able to put ourselves in the hands of someone that could solve our lives for us, would we do that? I would do that. That's easy, isn't it? I sit there, okay, I put myself in your hands, you do that for me. But it's like this master, once we were together with this master, with Lama Gangchen, also in Tibet. Lama Gangchen was going from one village to the other, and in this going from one village to the other, people would stop to ask for blessings, and so you had very, very long queues, so like thousands of people, and the car would go like very slowly, and it would put the hand on top of the head of each person. The whole villages will come out, so in order to do like 10 minutes, where you would normally do 10 minutes, it would take 3 hours. And together with us there was this abbot, this old monk, and there was one particular village where the old man had a way of asking blessings that, according to me, they didn't even know themselves what they were saying. It was like a way of saying it in their local dialect of the Kam, where in essence they would say, "Don't send me in hell. Don't allow me to go to hell." And the abbot would answer them, joking, "If you're not going there, I will not send. I will not send there. I will not send you there." What this means is that no one of us can force one towards one thing or the other. Buddha Shakyamuni said, "I am my own protector. I am my own enemy." And you need courage to be your own protector and to stop being your enemy. And you need courage. Why? Because we need to go against our habits. And you need to put effort. I'm not talking about sacrifice. You shouldn't make sacrifice. You shouldn't abandon some good things for something else. No, I'm saying that in order to get out of the comfort zone, it's not easy to look at each other in the eyes and to face oneself. Yes, I am arrogant, better not. It's not easy. And to look at oneself, okay, here I need to change habit. I put the effort to do that. Even from a neurological point of view, to change a habit means to find new neuronal paths, and for that you need much more energy. But it's good. And so I invite you, first of all, what we need, we need, is to be heroes, heroines that look at the way that we have in front and say, okay, I want to be at peace with myself and the others. I want to heal my deeper wounds. I want to be able to love the others in an unconditional way. I want to be able to be well with myself and the others, and I can do that. There are those that were able to do that before me. There are some examples here behind me. There is Atisha, Lama Tsongkhapa, Buddha Shakyamuni, Kyabche Tricha Dorje Chang. And someone will say, yeah, but they are great masters of the past. They were grown up in Tibet in the middle of the mountains. I can make you examples of closer people that were able to face very difficult things with serenity, with gratitude, with peace. We can all do that. But it's really in the moment when we're doing, where we're feeling well, where we can generate that inner strength and to say, okay, I can do that. There will be the moment where I will be taken by distraction. There will be the moment where I'll be taken by sadness, by tiredness, but I will do it. I will be able to be more generous, to cultivate more gratitude, to be more present, to abandon the habits that are harmful, for example, the addiction from the smartphone, which is not a joke. It's quite serious. And unfortunately, it seems worse and worse. And so the first step is to have the courage to love oneself. And like that kid, and I didn't say that sentence, that came from them. And as she was looking at me in the eyes, she told me, you need courage to love. And I add, you need courage to love, first of all, oneself. Because the thing that we are used to is to try to remain in the comfort zone, to let ourselves in the hands of the world, waiting for the world to do what is necessary for us to be well. But actually, we need courage to tell the truth when truth is uncomfortable. We need courage to maintain kindness and to be loving when on the other side we find like some aggressiveness or something else. And here the beautiful thing is that we can do it, and somehow we are doing it already. And then as we go on, then there is the habit becomes more and more deeper, so you need more and more courage. The second level is the courage to love the others, because there we need to go against the habit of being centered uniquely on the I and the mind. We have a level of self-referentiality that sometimes scares me. And recently I was reading of a book of a contemporary writer, and it was talking really about the way that the phone takes us to a place of narcissism and self-referentiality that is extreme. And it was explaining the following. the phone is this object through which you get in touch with the whole world. From the phone you can order food, you can buy clothes, you can talk with friends, you can check your work things, you can look at movies, you can check the news, you can get in touch with the whole world. You have the whole world in the palm of your hand, literally. But me, I get in touch with the world when I want, how I want, and what I want. And so it's the word where I don't want, and when I don't have to put myself in front of the other, I have a filter in between. Because one example of this is the difficulty that is there today, even to talk on the phone. We send like messages, little messages, or rather than having to listen to the other. And then when once someone sends like a voice message, you put it at like 1.5 or 2, talk faster, because already the fact that you are there in my life is kind of annoying. It's like Gollum, like my treasure, my precious. So has it ever occurred to you that you don't want to call her because when you're in front of the other person in the physical presence, or also in a phone call, there is a factor that forces us to get out of our comfort zone that is called the other. And we have to adapt to the time of the other. So, you're there, so I need to adapt to you. There is not only me. When I relate to you through the phone, yes, you're there, but I can mute you. I can make you become deaf. You're not listening to what I'm saying. So I'm listening what I want. I make you listen what I want, how I want, when I want. You're just there talking, doing something else. Has it ever happened to you to do something like that? Now it's normal. Normal doesn't mean sane. Ever and never normal as meant sane, unfortunately. Normality is just like a concept of like statistics. Normality is simply statistics. More people doing something means that thing becoming normal. So the question is not whether it's normal or not, but whether it's sane or not. And if we observe the way that we relate to the world through this object, this filter, makes us become more and more narcissistic, where it's me and mine, when I want, how I want, and more self-referential. We have a hard time to see the other, we have a hard time to be with the other. We went from a phase where you will be together, you will go out to be together, you will create moments to be together, where many up to a moment where many are together digitally. You call like a sort of community. You call like a community what happens on a digital level. Like a friend of mine many years ago, when there was still like time of Facebook, told me, said something that kind of impressed me. Okay, to have many friends on Facebook is like having a lot of money on Monopoly. And we went from having physical friends to digital friends, and now we are to a point where even the digital friends, with the digital friend at least the other exists, so it's easier to have a friendship with someone that doesn't exist. Artificial intelligence, which kind of always agrees with me, says what I want to hear, is more intelligent than me on the things that I want to know, and so on. And so I don't even need to face the other, and I become more and more fragile on an emotional level. Less resilience, and so actually the other as a fundamental function for us, because the other acts like a mirror. Why does an intimate relationship like a couple or also in the family can be so difficult? Because the other exists and is close, and we need to face that the other acts like a mirror. We see some parts of ourselves that we rather not see, and it's very important for us to allow ourselves to get out of this attitude that is so self-centered, and to allow ourselves to see the other, to acknowledge the existence of the other. And this is useful for ourselves, first of all. And here we need a lot of courage, because it means to get out of our habits. If we are used to being centered on the I and the mind, at a certain point, to insert in our loop someone else, it's not obvious. I don't know if this is clear. And so this is the second fundamental passage, which is really to say, okay, I can do it. To love, I can manage to do that, really in the sense of maitri, so to see the other. And then there is another fact that when we feel love, physically, what does it happen in our body? Tension, relaxation, our body, how does it react? Does oxytocin increases? There are many aspects of the body for which that is very good. It's like once there was it happened this situation where in this context where it was said who has a better emotional balance as also better muscular tone. A person that is taken by anger, you can see that in the body. A person that is fearful, anxiety, sadness, you also see that in the body, in the face. You see it in the kidneys, in the liver, in the lungs. You see the sadness. And then a good doctor can see these things much better than me. But what happens is that when one feels love, feels gratitude, when one has an inner state of satisfaction, you also see that in the body, but you see that you can see that very clearly. So when you, through my presence, through your presence, allow me to love you, that actually through you I'm getting in touch with the most beautiful part of me, which is also very, very good for me. So that sentence that seems like some kind of trick that selfishly speaking is better to be altruistic is very real, but here we need a change of habit that is really not indifferent. Like in the text of Geshe Chakawa, abandon the guilty of everything and cultivate gratitude towards the others. Who is the guilty of everything other than being the other? It's not me. It's the obsession with the self-gratification. I am not the guilty of my suffering. The guilty of my suffering is the ignorance, this obsession with the I and the mind that brings to everything else. It's not me, the guilty. It's like as if someone hits us with a stick. Was the guilty of the pain? The stick? If you say, okay, I got angry with the stick, what would you say? But why? Why not? Man, was it the hand, the arm that hurt me? or someone will say maybe the person. Why? Because it's considered like the primary cause of that pain. And I will say it's not the person, because like before that there is the anger, there is the hatred, there is ignorance, there is selfishness. And so the guilty of our suffering, not only of our suffering, but of all the conflicts that are there in the world, is the obsession with self-gratification. It is selfishness that is extreme, that is born out of our ignorance, that manifests itself with anger, dissatisfaction, attachment, with unlimited desire. When I see these things that are happening in the world, that I really have a hard time to put into words, from what has happened yesterday or the other day, of having approved in Israel the death penalty in an absurd way, to wars that are happening, and to what is there in other countries, also in Africa, really absurd things that are happening. And now I will not get into the details, also to save ourselves, because I think we have already seen enough of that. This is not the point. When I see all of this, it's like it's like with the stick. We see that. I was I saw that scene talking about a specific situation, like people celebrating for the law passing about the death penalty, other than the fact that we got to the point where we make life kind of trivial. Like, okay, it's kind of normal to rejoice of the death of someone else. Okay, thank God that person died, and this is very serious. But what I see is like people taken by a level of ignorance, of selfishness, of their own self-referentiality, where they see the I and the mine, and they're not able to see beyond that, and where the other becomes an interference for the I and mine. And I'm really sorry for that. Of course, for what it happens, but also mostly for the people that are in the middle of that. When like there is a war, okay, it's pointless to talk about the details, because there are some really crazy things that are also not worthy of being repeated, with some terrible things. And of course, I'm really sorry for the person that um, receives that violence, but I'm really sorry also for the person that is there doing that act of violence, because that person is victim of ignorance and selfishness and many things in that sense, and goes to perpetuate a state of suffering more and more. And so when we look at the world around us and we see all these bad things, and we don't need to go very far actually, when we look at conflicts that are at home, or when we see the crimes that happen in the society that we ourselves live in, where is where does this all come from? From a lack of resources, from objective problems. Maybe in Israel there is not enough land for everyone. Where does this come from? From the obsession with self-gratification, from our own ignorance. And so it banishes, okay, banish the guilty of everything is the guilt is the obsession with self-gratification. So I shouldn't abandon myself. I should take care of myself by including the other. And we can do it. It's possible. And here we need a lot of courage, because it means to go against the current. Because unfortunately, when many of these things happen, the tendency that we see, and not only in the things like wars, but also on smaller scale things. Our tendency is to judge and to take part on one side or the other. So I'm in favor of one or the other. Now we have seen the craziness that has been there not only in Italy. I know well what has happened in Italy or Brazil, but I talk from the point of view, the human point of view of the judgment and distance and polarization that has been there in the vaccines during COVID. Do you remember that? Without getting now whether we agree with that or not, but it's like a personal choice of freedom whether I want that thing inside of me or not. But the point is how easily we let ourselves to be dragged in a dualism where I am either in favor or against, where we have the tendency of generalizing the other and adding some uh, ugly adjectives because here and there. And so here we should really have the courage. No, me, I have my principles of respect, of love, of respect towards life, respect towards truth. Me, I will maintain them. Whatever happens, you can hurt me, but I will not desire your harm. You need courage for that, but it's possible. And it's here that you uh, you get to the part of the courage of loving the other, and I believe that it becomes more and more self-evident because we are in a time that is very polarized, and it's dangerous polarization. We live in a time where the simple fact of hearing a person having a different political position rather than me, that becomes already a cause for hatred towards a person. And on the other hand, we are proud of being in a democracy, where the basis of a democracy is that there are different ideas. If we would all think the same thing, then it wouldn't be a democracy. But the democracy, okay, the majority agrees on the same thing, then the minority has different ideas, and then there is a dialogue, and that's beautiful. But if I have aversion towards you simply because you have a point of view that is different from mine, we are really doing bad. In Brazil, we have extremes that they're really, really crazy, and also in many other parts of the world. And where does this extremism come from? This dualism, where there is very strong, this polarization. For example, okay, I live in a in an apartment like this, in a condominium, and so every time that I go to park the car, there is one of the neighbors that lives in the same flat, and they see that I park in a wrong way, and or for some reason I start to have aversion towards a neighbor. And then can it happen that in a condominium you have like conflicts? It's rare, but it can happen. So let's say that I have a conflict with someone, and since when I have something against that person for whatever reason, let's say that I believe myself to be like a good person, a correct person, but me, that person, I really have a hard time with. What is our tendency? I will keep that for myself, or will be quiet, or will I talk with someone else? I will talk with someone else, and I will look for someone that will tell me, yes, you're right, that person parks in the wrong way, takes like the place in the middle, creates like problem like this and that, and at that point, I go talk with someone else again. And when in my condominium, where maybe like there are 100 people living, like 5 have told me that that person parks badly, then I would say everyone in the condominium says. And even In Brazil, we have this term like todo mundo, like the whole world, like for people, the whole world says this. And then the more people there are, the more I will look for people thinking in a similar way than I do. And when I find someone thinking differently, then okay, you're wrong. You still haven't seen things properly. You haven't understood. The more I will find people with a similar narrative, the more the narrative will not be believed like my narrative, but like the reality. And so it's not me who was kind of left badly for that person parking badly. No, it's him who is the problem, who parks badly, and this and that. And so we have the tendency of looking for others thinking in a similar way, or rather believing in the same narrative than we do, to justify for ourselves our own narrative, not anymore as our own narrative, but as the reality. And what do social media do about this? Do they increase dialogue, or do they show us things similar to those that we think? Once I was listening to a person talking that was expert in the world of social media, was part of the programmers that created this word, and he said, me, what I do, I on purpose, I like things that I don't like so that I can have in my feed uh, like a more coherent view of the world. Because if I always like things that I really like, then I will always have a polarized vision. Then when I get into my social media and I see all the things that talk about dogs being wonderful, and in fact they are, okay, they are objective phenomena, what happens is that, okay, everyone thinks like this. Someone says, look, I don't like dogs, you're wrong. And so what happens is that we live in a subjective reality. We have talked recently about the fact that we live through our own narratives. And what happens is that we look for ways to more and more reinforce our narratives. And here we need another courage. That is the courage of seeing that we live inside of our own narratives and to change narrative. But even before and changing narrative, we need a lot of courage to say, okay, but really, is words subjective? Yes. So that is not really like that, but are we sure? Yes. It's not easy to comprehend and to live with coherence the fact that we live in a subjective reality. Our tendency is to say, yes, if subjective when the other is wrong, yeah, I'm right. You just need to think to that example that we gave before, the political positions. Very often we think, okay, that was like a opposite position, like left, right, right, left. The view opposite from ours, is it wrong or is it another vision? Of course it's wrong. And this is how we live it, and we need courage to accept that we are ignorant in this world. And that to say that I want to get out of this dynamic, the world is made out of narratives, and I have my own narratives that have their coherence, and I can change the narrative. And the first step is to accept that we live in a subjective reality where I have my narrative and you have yours, and the beauty is that we can talk and create a new one, and that's wonderful. It's like the story of which I talked about many times, where I was in a plane with Lama Gangchen. He was sitting in front of me, and next to me there was a man like from Russia or something like that. He was talking in English with a particular accent, and as he was talking, he looked at me. But what are you? And I tried to explain him, yeah, we are lamas, we are Buddhists, and here and there. Ah, you should be ashamed. What a bad thing. You're like the worst of society, like something like that. And I was very curious. Then also to me, to talk with people that think differently than me, but that are intelligent, I really like that. There is a way of saying in Tibetan, like to discuss with the wise is easy, to discuss with the ignorant is difficult. That person was like a person that uh, was cultured. Was not. It didn't seem like a preconception. He was like part of his vision, and he seemed like very convinced of that. So, can you explain better why? And he started to explain. And as he is talking, I say, "Yes, you're right." Then the conclusion, I did not agree with that because it was like one, the challenge of life is to find balance, the peace being by being in life. The point that it didn't get, which I didn't agree, is that okay, you should be ashamed because you ran away from the world in order to be well. The difficulty, okay, I would like to see being at peace with oneself, with the others, to cultivate love and patience and these things where you have to work, to pay the bills, to face the wife, the kids, and all of this. This is what he was saying. The wife, of course, would say the husband, and on one hand, I said, yes, yeah, you're right, because I've seen people trying to look for a religious way to run away from the world, and the reality is that it doesn't work. One then works well in the religious path is one that works good in the word, but that chooses the other path because it's more meaningful. When I think about myself, I would say yes. Let's say that the difficulties that I have to face, the problems that I have to solve, and so on, are more usually than a family because I have like various centers of Dharma in Italy, Brazil, and the people in the Sangha. So if I start to tell you just the things of today, then among people that are sick recently, who has lost someone, economical problems, things to solve, technical things, there are like a tremendous quantity of things that is going on constantly. I'm not complaining. So what I told him, the way that my master and me live doesn't seem to me that we are running away from life, but it's true what you say that when one looks for a spiritual religious path to run away from life, that doesn't work. And it was very beautiful because like you find someone with a different view, and that makes your vision more rich when you're open to listen to that. It's like when someone criticizes me for something that I've done, and in the first moment I didn't agree with that because according to me it was the right way, my motivation according to me was right, I had good intention, I did it in the best way, but to to have to have allowed myself to have listened to that criticism in an open way and without putting myself in the counterattack allow me to see how that action in that context with that person brought to some negative effects. And so it allowed me to see that and to see, okay, in these situations I need to be careful, and it's not that I did something wrong, like a mistake. In that context, what I did didn't work. I need to change, I need to understand better, I have a broader view, I need to understand better the context. And I asked, sorry, look, I'm sorry that what I did generated suffering, other than the fact that it was my intention or not. And so to be in front of what's different can only make oneself more rich if we are able to listen and if we have the courage to get out of our comfort zone and to change narrative. One last thing on this, and then we conclude. In a democracy, since we talked about this today, the other fundamental point in order for a democracy to be healthy and to work is to have some good mechanisms of self correction. Because to make mistakes is normal. As we make mistakes, we adjust. The same thing is with ourselves. There is nothing wrong in making mistakes, but we should welcome ourselves with love and redirect ourselves, and that's all. It's all fine. And so I invite you to have courage, like that kid that was saying to me, you need courage to love. When was it the last time that you had courage? And it's not like a courage having to fight to face some danger. No, it's the courage to love oneself and to say okay, I can face difficulties that will be there in loving oneself. It's the courage of like starting a dialect, to say like a trivial thing, in starting a relationship with another person, in opening a conversation with the other where I need to get out of my comfort zone and I need to see the other. Having less fear of suffering, we will suffer less. So this is all for today. Next week I will have um, an appointment on Wednesday that will not allow me to be here, so we will see each other on Tuesday. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.